Well, good afternoon, everybody. Scott Fisher here with Senior Resource Connectors. Once again, we are delighted to be able to share with you, our loyal audience, just a number of these incredible professionals that we're in the trenches with every day, addressing the needs of families who are aging themselves, or they have a loved one who's having some challenges with the aging journey. As you know, our saying, what we like to tell everybody is it's our turn now, to love and care for those who love and cared for us. And so it's a lot of this, in my case, in my wife's case, it's our very story. It's our parents, ourselves, and we're right in the throes of it. So Senior Resource Connectors is a coalition of 40 plus business owners and companies that are all dedicated to serve families from the highest perspective and integrity. And their mission is to serve and care for people. And in the last couple of years, I've gotten to know this guy a little bit. And David, it has been a joy to get to know you the last couple of years, to know your heart for people and to do what you do. And so, everybody, I just want you to welcome David Poore from Arizona Senior Support. David, welcome, and so glad you could take a few minutes to hang out with us.
Thank you. Good to see you, Scott. Appreciate you having me.
I'm curious, just off the kick, as we kick this off, tell me about Arizona Senior Support. What was your mission when you launched the business? How long have you been doing what you're doing?
I've been doing this almost exclusively for about 20 years now. And, number one, I love computers. And number two, I love helping people. And that's how it kind of got started. Decided to, back when everybody was first getting their first computer,
Mhm.
everybody knew how to break them. Nobody knew how to fix them. And I thought, well, there's probably a market for that. And sure enough, I started posting a few ads and I was getting a lot of calls. It's a little more competitive these days. Plus, a lot of people have figured out what not to click on and, learned how to use them better and don't need as much help with certain things. They're even more stable than they used to be. Windows is more reliable. Some of the hardware, the computers themselves
Mhm.
are built a little more solid. So it's a little more challenging to really stay as busy as I had been. But I still enjoy it, and so yeah, it's good. Good to help people.
Well, we're thrilled to have you part of the group, and the 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 niche that you've carved out here is something super important. Um, as an adult son, first of all, I got my own challenges, much less my mother's challenges, and anybody that's aging, right? And so yeah, I know the hardware is better, and maybe some of the software is easier to use, but how many challenges with emails and malware and virus protection. I mean, the maliciousness of the world really
Yeah,
preys upon our seniors, doesn't it?
yeah. As soon as it became commercialized and criminals realized, oh, I should get in on that. It's amazing how much of that really goes on. Years ago, I used to spend an awful lot of my time cleaning up infections, malware, viruses. They're not quite as prevalent as they used to be, or at least they're not as rampant as freely spread as they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
These days, it kind of takes interaction from the user. So if a senior gets an email that looks like it's from the bank and they click on the link and they're asking for their information and they enter it, well, they might have just given up their identity. And so there's a lot of different types of that sort of thing going on.
I imagine then, as this has become criminal, this has gone from just being a pain in the butt to being criminal in a
Right?
lot of respects. How much of your time do you advocate and talk about protection and ask people to call you if they see something
Well, whenever I
that is
deal
alerting to them or alarming, or when should they be alarmed? I mean, imagine that it's a lot.
whenever I deal with a client and it's clear that they might be vulnerable at all, then I give them the speech and I let them know how to recognize some of these things and to watch out and watch out for these dangers. I tell them what the dangers are, what the consequences could be if you fall for the wrong thing. If you're dealing with a scammer and you don't realize it, it could really mess up your whole day and then some. So
Yeah, I got a text message today. Um, not the postal service, but the postal service telling me just click here and we're tracking your location on your and I'm like
Right.
delete, and it says you want to report it as junk when you hit delete right away, so it's recognizing it as a junky thing. But I would guess there are people that click in, right?
Sure, sure. Especially if it looks legit. It says it's from Amazon or it says it's from UPS or the post office or wherever. And if it looks legit, especially if you do click the link and it takes you to a page that has their logo. So again, that's criminal fraud, deception. But as long as you're falling for it and going along with it, it could take you deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole of of being becoming a victim.
And people need to know that even though here in Arizona, the Arizona Attorney General's office has a fraud, scam investigation element to it. It's very hard to prosecute. Very hard. These crimes are from people that are out of state, out of country, often.
Most of them, yeah, the ones that are hard to go after are out of the country.
Yeah.
If they're just out of state, but within the United States, I believe the FBI would catch up to them pretty quick.
But the out of country stuff, it's money's gone. Um, I got called, probably 8 or 10 years ago, and then my mom got the very same call probably 5 years after, and it's the IRS. Hi,
Right,
this is Sheriff John Brown here from the IRS has asked me to call you. You've
right,
got an outstanding balance, and we're on our way over to get a check. You
right,
know, um, of course, the IRS doesn't call people like that, and
right,
they don't employ the sheriff.
right,
But for an aging woman who was scared by that. She
right,
panicked.
right,
Um, I watched her Uber app. She doesn't drive any longer, but I have Uber for her. So she went to two short trips with Uber, Dave. And
right.
what she did was go across the street to Fry's and back because Sheriff John Brown told her get two Apple
Gift
gift
cards.
cards or
Yeah,
whatever. Scratch off the bag, read us the numbers,
right.
and she lost $500. And mom doesn't have the kind of money to lose $500,
Sure,
but
sure.
she panicked, and they're preying on people to
Yeah.
panic, right?
Nobody legitimate is going to ask you to pay by gift card.
Yeah, right.
A friend of mine fell for it. He worked at Cox in sales, but he had to deal with Direct TV, and he managed to call the wrong number. It was a bogus number, but they answered by saying Direct TV. He thought he was dealing with the right place. He paid with a gift card. I was shocked that he was willing to fall for that. And it
Wow.
wasn't until he got back, read him the number, and
Wow.
they said, "Oh, that's not working. You should go get another one." That's when
Yeah.
he finally said, "Hey, forget this."
Yeah.
Um,
Are there some things about the phones or the tech scams that really give them away that you really alert people to just be super careful or just delete it or not follow it up?
comes to the phone, looks like it froze up. You there? Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to the phone, you know, when there's a sales call, somebody calls trying to sell you something, whether it's, oh, you got to sign up for your Medicare benefits or, a solar roof, anything that somebody calls you out of the blue and tries to sell you something. It's either suspicious or downright fraud. Okay.
Yeah.
Texting. The one of the things that I've seen recently with texting is you'll see a message that comes in that just says "Hi, how are you?" or something like that, and then
Yeah.
they pretend like they accidentally wrote the wrong number and apologize, but try to start a conversation.
Yes.
In a lot of cases, they'll send you a picture. It'll be a real pretty woman, and oh, I need a friend, and now I need money, and uh, so some of them are easier to spot than others.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's a good idea to talk about some of the ones that are harder to spot. If you get an email that says it's from Norton or McAfee, just for instance, or any major company, perhaps somebody that you do deal with, and it says that your payment didn't go through, or your subscription is due, click here. Anytime you do a click here, make sure that when it takes you to your web browser, the address starts with www Norton.com, McAfee.com, Amazon.com. And it could even be changed a little bit, like, AmazonDeals.com. But if it looks like Amazon, you might think you're there, but you're really not.
So you hover over it, you hover over the address, right? And that or it'll give you the address
Yeah.
that's hidden. Yeah.
Yeah. And that doesn't always even work. Sometimes you have to right click it and copy the link and then paste it and see what it actually said. They're constantly changing their methods to try and make it hard for you to
Right.
notice that you're being scammed.
Oh,
But
excuse me.
yeah, and anytime you get an email, an unsolicited, basically a spam from some kind of company, be very, very suspicious
Gotcha.
because you never know what it could be. So also with email, one of the things to notice is if it's sent to not just you, but it's sent to a group of addresses all at one time,
Mhm.
that's a red flag.
Right.
If it's sent from a Gmail address rather than somebody at Norton, then that's absolutely spam, fraud, whatever you
That would
want
be
to say.
spammy. Yeah, that's for sure.
But also email addresses can be faked as well. So just because something, let's say you get an email from support@chase.com, Chase the bank. Um, it looks legitimate because it came from them. It's got their logo, and you need to update your info. Click this link. Well, you click it, and maybe it didn't take you to chase.com. Maybe it took you somewhere else. And then now you might be tempted to enter all the information they're asking for, which would be enough to steal your identity, take your money, whatever.
Right.
One of the scams to watch out for is the tech support scam. Somebody will call you and say, "Oh, I'm with your ISP, Internet Service Provider, and we've detected some, viruses on your computer, and you're in danger, and we need to sign into your computer and clean this up for you."
Right. Right.
And I've seen that unfold in a number of different ways. The worst one was they got into the guy's computer, blanked out his screen with a message that says, "Please be patient while we work on your computer." So he couldn't see what they were doing. They logged into his bank because he had his password saved in his
Yeah.
browser, logged into his bank, took a lot of money. I think it was $20,000, converted it to crypto, and then cashed out the crypto. So he was not able to retrieve that. And he's I've known him for a while. He's a pretty sharp guy, and I'm pretty sure I had to talk with him before, and he
Yeah.
knows he should have
Yeah.
known better. But you don't want to find out after the fact that, oh, I shouldn't have done this, or this guy was fraudulent. Um, so yeah, there's many scams going on out there
What
constantly.
if somebody finds themselves having been hit or taken advantage of? Is there any contact law enforcement, contact the Attorney General's office, anything else that they need to
Yeah,
do legally, or is just and now they got to really button themselves up for to protect themselves in the future too?
yeah, you could call the FBI, but again, if it's overseas, they probably won't be able to do anything about it, and that's where a lot of that stuff is.
Yeah.
But if they did get your credit card number, social security number, you should cancel your credit card, get it replaced with a new one. Call TransUnion, Experian, Equifax to put a fraud alert on your credit so that they can't open up new accounts in your name. Call the banks to make sure they don't see any suspicious activity. Um, uh, Reset your passwords. If you did give them access to your computer, call somebody like me, make sure they completely scan your computer and make sure they don't still have access, because that could be a disaster. They might be able to do things without you even seeing it. Once they get into your computer, they can run a script that will start sending them all your
Mhm.
data. There's so many possibilities. Anything you can
Yeah.
imagine, and then some, is what they're going to try to do.
So when somebody needs your help with their hardware, and I'm assuming most of the time we're talking about their laptops and tablets and things like that, maybe phones. You talked to me about that, whatever. But um, when you talk to them, where do you start with them? How do you assess the situation? Do you go to people? Do people come to you? How does that work?
I prefer people call me or text me,
Okay.
but usually over the phone. And I'll ask them, what symptoms are you having? Is it Sometimes it's just a little thing in their browser. They can't figure out how to get their toolbar back or something like that. But sometimes it's, completely malfunctioning. And I just go through, I ask them what the symptoms are. If it's a browser thing, I'll ask them which browser are you using, and if they go, what's a browser, or they don't know, there's certain cues that'll come up that'll tell me, give me an idea of how much they know. So it'll give me an idea how to talk to them without talking down to them, because some people are, quite versed and, quite educated about computing. And so I don't want to talk down to them. But when it comes to somebody that really doesn't know what they're doing, and I can tell that quickly, then I use a slightly different language to make it simple for them to understand.
You'd have to with most of us our age. Like I was laughing to talking. I was talking to a colleague this morning about we use a digital data management CRM program to manage families and but Dave, people use these for years. I was way late to anything that's new, and now it's AI, and AI is wigging me out because I know I got to learn some of this, but the technology um, explosion just in our lifetime. Think about what our parents are seeing
Yeah.
in their lifetime in 80 years. My goodness, right? So it's very challenging to embrace and accept all the changes and the rapidity of the changes, right?
Yeah, one of the things I tell people is that if you're going to be into your, using your computer, you've got to be ready for change because it's coming whether you like it or not. And that's one of the things that people have trouble with. How come this used to be here and now it's over here and this doesn't work like it used to? Well, they're always improving things,
Yeah.
and that requires change. And it can be difficult to understand why did they do it? I liked it the way it was. Can I
Yeah.
get it, the way it used to be? In some cases, I can, depending on what it is. So,
We're standing here on a Zoom meeting doing it this way, having this conversation like we're in the same room.
right,
When I was a kid, we watched a cartoon called The Jetsons.
right.
And
I remember that.
right, and Elroy and his dad were talking, George Jetson was talking on a computer screen, and you went, how would they do it? And here we are. And not only are we doing it sitting at our desk, we do it on our phone and do FaceTime. We have
Yeah,
our littles, the littles, like my granddaughter the other day was opening my wife's phone and fires up the FaceTime. And she's 3,
yeah.
you know. And yet as adults, we struggle figuring out how to get that to work.
I was, in high school when I got my first computer, it was a Commodore 64, and I was fascinated with what it could do, even just with the games that were coming out at the time,
Right,
the colorful animations and things.
right.
But I did a little programming and spreadsheets and word processing documents. I was on some of the first internet chat rooms, which I thought was just such a great advance to be able to do that. But
My kids were in these chat rooms, and I'm like, what's a room? What's a chat room?
right. And you mentioned AI, and
Yeah.
I really fear what that could turn into for a number of
Oh yeah.
reasons.
Oh
But when
yeah.
it comes to security, these scammers undoubtedly have databases of certain people's names and phone numbers, maybe people that were vulnerable before. And if they start getting databases of, well, let's say Scott has a mom or a dad or a daughter or whatever, and here's their name and here's their phone number. Well, what if they have a recording of you and they make an AI phone call that
Yeah.
sounds like, "Hey, I'm in help. You need to wire me $6,000."
That's happening, Dave. That's already happening
Wow.
where they set you up, they get your voice recorded on a previous call. Their
Right.
AI program now recreates your voice and calls my mother and says, your son needs $10,000. He's locked in a Jamaican jail or whatever, and that is happening. That's happening. And so, man, I wish the world would use all this sensational brilliance for good as opposed to criminal, but it,
Absolutely.
it
There's
is
so
what it
many
is.
there's so many productive things you could do with a computer
Yeah,
uh, to earn money rather than to steal it, because that's
yeah,
exactly what they do is try to just
yeah,
just from people. And the shame of it is, when they go after seniors sometimes because they're vulnerable, because
Yeah.
they're trusting, and they're willing to take their every last penny, even if it means they can't afford their rent or their medicine or their food.
Right.
And that's terrible, and that's really really needs to be stopped.
Well, thank
Uh,
you for doing what you do, and I've learned a lot, in the time we've got to know each other this year, and I appreciate this. Before we bring a wrap to this, you must address a lot of things, and maybe talking to a senior who doesn't know maybe always how to express or describe or communicate. So I imagine your assessment skills and your honing in on the issue skills have to be pretty fine-tuned by now after 20 years.
sure. I've done it. Worked for so many different types of people,
Yeah,
and I feel I'm pretty good at figuring out where they're coming from, where are they at mentally, and
yeah,
what kind of help do they need, and what how am I going to make them happy? That's my
yeah,
number one thing is
yeah.
how do I make them happy with my service, but keep them safe as well. And if there's one thing to take away from this, it can be difficult. But what I tell people is try to only use your phone or texting or email to communicate with people you know in person and who you trust. If you leave it at that and communicate with nobody else, you'll be safe. You should
You
be
should
safe,
be safe. You should be
except for
safe.
that AI thing we just discussed.
Well,
Um,
that's great. That's great. That's great. Listen, um, in our show notes, Dave, your contact information, you can find Dave's listing in our directory on our senior resources um, um, connectors website. That's www.seniorresourceconnectors.com. Our member directory is there. Dave, is there anything you want to add? Any contact information or email address that you want if someone wants to have a question or have an issue about anything? I'm sure you're the guy to field it for them.
right, just reach out to me by phone if you can, either text or call at 602-770-0005. Be happy to talk to you.
Thank you, Dan. Well,
Thank you.
thank you for doing what you do to protect and serve. That's who we are at Senior Resource Connectors. We want to align ourselves with business owners and difference makers like David. So thanks for taking a few minutes to share your expertise and your heart with us today, Dave. I can't wait to play this back and listen to the things we talked about. And
Great.
please, if you're listening to this your first time to visit with us, like and follow what we're doing here. We're in the middle of season 3, and we try to bring you each week a conversation that really addresses some very, very specific and key issues that folks that are aging are faced with in the families that love them. So until next time, David, thanks again. Good to see you, man.
Thank
We'll
you. Have a
talk
good,
soon. Okay.
have a good day.
You guys take care. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Bye.